Starting any new vehicle company is difficult, especially an all-electric one, and Lucid has had its fair share of challenges, but they've set all kinds of new records in regards to range and efficiency. But unfortunately, they've also set some records when it comes to vehicle margins, as far as how negative you can go on your balance sheet, and because of those negative reports, a lot of people never believed this day would come. I remember reading the comments and being skeptical myself that Lucid did not have sufficient cash to actually get their Gravity SUV into production, which was really, I think, a saving move for the company because it's just been made abundantly clear that most of the Lucid Air models they've designed don't have a ton of demand. I've driven the Lucid Air Pure myself, and I thought they were slowly approaching that sweet spot as they got the vehicle cheaper and cheaper, but they just spent so much manufacturing resources on making six-figure vehicles, which they are just not. And I too was a skeptic. I too was a believer that Lucid was gonna die out. There was no way they could sustain themselves with margins this bad and so little cash flow, and on top of that having demand issues with their product. But Lucid just reached an incredible milestone. They have officially built their first pre-production Gravity SUV. So if you're curious about the stage they're in of development right now, it means that they've built out the assembly line and the manufacturing process for the Gravity SUV, and they're now building units that can be tested and calibrated, but they are no longer prototypes as in like hand-built models that were just made in order to look pretty for an unveiling or a showroom model. No, now they actually are fine-tuning the process of building the machine that makes the machine, and to me, it's a good indication that since they've hit this pre-release candidate stage at the end of July, they're pretty much on track to start deliveries of the Gravity SUV by the end of this year, so just a mere couple of months away. That's incredibly impressive to me, considering how much they've struggled to move inventory with the Air and how profitability has been a massive concern for them, more so than many other startups. But I think Gravity will absolutely solve one of their biggest problems, which was purely down to demand. And what Rivian has already proven for the all-electric startup space is that there's a ton of demand for three-row SUVs on the market. And I think it might partially be simply because Tesla doesn't really have a direct competitor to the Rivian R1S or really the Lucid Gravity. The closest Tesla's got is the Model X, but those Falcon Wing doors really eat into the functionality, the utility, and as far as efficiency and cargo capacity is concerned, at least on paper, there's really no competition here. Like, the Lucid Gravity has over 100 cubic feet of storage behind the front row within the form factor that's the same of the Model X, and it's more aerodynamic with its miniaturized powertrain that allows for more storage space, a way more accessible frunk on the Lucid Gravity as well, which means with a battery pack not much larger than a Model X and definitely smaller than the Rivian R1S, they're able to achieve over 400 miles of range, which is pretty impressive, and they're definitely going to be leaning on that range argument with the Gravity because the charging argument is of course much worse with Lucid. It's a real shame too because they've got some incredible engineers that have made some of the most space efficient powertrains and battery packs we've ever seen, and I still think it'd be really cool if Lucid started building out their own DC fast charging network like Rivian has. There's just so many advantages when the EV automaker themselves is able to build out the charging infrastructure. Usually all of the plug-and charge functionality just works so much better. The software communication is better, and they know how to fine-tune it to charge their vehicle at its best peak speed. Whereas right now, Lucid is very dependent on Electrify America, which has left a very disappointing experience for many customers. I've seen far more than one Lucid customer that has sold the vehicle or gotten rid of it simply because of the charging infrastructure, not because the vehicle itself was all that bad. But it doesn't sound like they're interested in building out their own chargers, so if you're not going to be providing your own in-house charging experience, I guess the next best thing is to lean on to incredible efficiency and having great range, which I think the Lucid Gravity will, and also have way more storage capacity on the inside. So lots of advantages going for the Gravity, and I'm really fascinated to see how it's going to sell on the market compared to other three-row electric SUVs. You got Kia EV9 in the picture from a more established, long-lasting automaker, but at least appears in reviews to have not the greatest route planning software. Also, not great range compared to what you find in the Model X or the R1S, but certainly much cheaper than what you'll find for those other SUV options. But it's a pretty popular segment, and a lot of people are willing to go all electric to save on gas because those three-row SUVs tend to not be the most fuel efficient. So once it enters the market in just a couple of months, we're really going to find out how much styling plays into people's buying behaviors or how much range matters versus storage space versus straight up brand power. Like, I could see a lot of people still going with the R1S purely because they like Rivian as a company, as a brand. They like that Rivian is building out their own adventure network, or they like maybe the more off-roady capabilities of the R1S. Or some people might prefer still going with the Tesla because of the autonomous driving capabilities, the supercharger network being so absurdly strong. It's a very competitive segment already that Lucid is entering, but I do think even now, compared to before, the Lucid Gravity is kind of their make or break moment, because they're obviously not going to achieve profitability with the Lucid Air, and the Gravity, they've said, is on a whole different platform from the Air. It's not just the same vehicle scaled up. It qualifies for far more tax credits than the Lucid Air ever would, and again, it's a more popular segment than the premium sedan market, which has been shrinking for a while now, simply because it's a hatchback. It should probably have some more off-road capabilities. It's got air suspension, unlike the Air, while still retaining that insane Lucid efficiency and great range. This is their chance really to shine and prove themselves, and the fact that they're not delaying things and seem to be on track to release the Gravity this year, to me, is a good indication that Lucid might be in this for the long haul. But the reason I'm hesitant to say that, you know, the Gravity's the make or break moment is, well, you know, the Saudis have been keeping them afloat, and at this stage, if they keep pouring money into them, even though they haven't been able to turn a profit with the Lucid Air, and of course the ramp up process with the Lucid Gravity results in a lot of cash burn early on, I kind of feel like, hey, they could probably lose a bunch of money with the Gravity, and the Saudis will keep on bailing them out because they want Lucid to exist to continue to bring manufacturing and business to their economy, you know, more domestically. So maybe they'll get away with it. They've just found a really, really good funding source that can let them burn as much as they need to burn, but I'm very grateful that Lucid's been pretty up to date with showing us all of the manufacturing processes going on to make the Gravity SUV real. And I can't wait to drive one myself. I've seen one in person and was really impressed by the dimensions as a guy that prioritizes aerodynamics and efficiency, and I like the idea of having a ton of range and still a ton of practicality. I think they're kind of onto something when they say this might be the best SUV ever. I really think the last piece of the puzzle is that charging infrastructure though, but Lucid claims they're switching to NACS in 2025. To me, the adoption of NACS is really going to come down to the execution of how do they fix the problem of their vehicles being on an 800, 900 volt architecture when the vast majority of superchargers on the road are optimized more for 400 volts. Like, I really, really hope they talk about how the Gravity could potentially split the voltage for their battery pack in order to achieve peak speeds at most supercharging locations, because I don't think you can just keep telling people, oh, electrify America is good enough, because clearly that ain't working. So what do you guys think of the Gravity SUV hitting this major milestone? Now they're actually able to release drivable, feature complete models from the assembly line. Now it's just a matter of fine-tuning that process, probably crash testing it, range testing it, you know, calibrating all the little things, but looks like it's gonna happen. This is a pretty crucial stage of development that they've hit, and I can't wait to drive one myself, and I hope to document it for you on this very channel. Thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.